Imagine a world where the invisible force that keeps us grounded suddenly vanishes. What would life be like without gravity? This is not just a mere thought experiment, but a peek into a reality that's entirely different from our own. Here, we begin our journey into the concept of a gravityless world, a place that defies the very rules we've come to understand and accept as universal truths. Gravity is like the silent maestro conducting the symphony of our lives. It's the unseen hand guiding the dance of the planets, the force that shapes mountains, and the glue that holds the oceans to the earth. It's so interwoven into our existence that we often forget it's there, yet without it, life as we know it would be unrecognizable. So let's embark on this thought-provoking journey. Join us as we dive into the hypothetical scenarios of life on a gravityless Earth. Picture this. The moment gravity disappears, everything not securely fastened to the ground starts floating. Now let's dive deeper into this surreal scenario. Imagine your cup of coffee, your smartphone, even your beloved pet. They all begin to levitate. The immediate effects would be both fascinating and chaotic. Picture the streets, cars, and bicycles once bound by gravity, now floating aimlessly. Even the simple act of walking would become a Herculean task. With no gravity to hold us down, we'd all become astronauts in our own homes, bouncing off the walls and ceilings. A day at the office, forget about it. Our daily commute would turn into a spacewalk with floating buses and trains. The hustle and bustle of city life would be replaced by a ballet of drifting bodies and objects as we struggle to navigate this new, weightless world. The simple act of shaking hands or hugging a loved one would become a challenge. And let's not even get started on sports. Could you imagine a football game where the players and the ball are all in a constant state of freefall? Or a swim meet where the water isn't held in the pool, but floating in blobs around the swimmers? Even our homes won't be safe havens in this gravityless world. Picture your furniture, your appliances, your very dinner floating around you. Cooking would become an extreme sport, with boiling water and hot oil turning into dangerous projectiles. The world as we know it would be turned upside down. Or rather, there would be no up or down anymore. Our sense of orientation, our very perception of reality would be disrupted. We would have to relearn how to do everything, from the way we move to the way we interact with our environment and each other. From floating cars to airborne humans, our world would quickly turn into a scene straight out of a sci-fi movie. Now let's consider the long-term impacts of a world without gravity. Things get even more chaotic. Imagine, if you will, a world where the very air we breathe becomes a rogue element. Without gravity, our atmosphere would no longer be held in place, slowly diffusing into space. This would lead to a slow but certain depletion of our life-sustaining oxygen, and an end to the protective layer that shields us from harmful cosmic rays. Our weather systems, too, would undergo radical changes. Weather patterns as we know them are largely dictated by gravity's influence on air pressure and temperature. In a gravityless world, these patterns would be thrown into disarray. We might see wild, unpredictable weather phenomena unlike anything we've ever experienced. And what about our oceans, those vast bodies of water that cover over 70% of our planet? Without gravity, they too would be untethered, the water molecules drifting off into the atmosphere and ultimately into space. Imagine the Earth not as a blue marble but as a barren, dry sphere. But we're not done yet. The Earth itself, our home, maintains its spherical shape due to gravity. Without this force, our planet would start to lose its roundness over time. This could potentially lead to catastrophic geological events as the Earth's crust deforms and reshapes. Life as we know it, from the smallest microorganism to the largest creatures, has evolved under the influence of gravity. In its absence, the long-term survival of life forms would be questionable at best. It's likely that many species would not survive this drastic change, leading to a mass extinction of unparalleled proportions. All these potential impacts paint a bleak picture of a world without gravity. It's a sobering reminder of the crucial role this invisible force plays in maintaining the balance and harmony of our planet. In essence, Earth as we know it would cease to exist. But what about us? How would the human body fare in a gravityless world? In a zero-gravity environment, our bodies would undergo significant changes. Without the constant downward force of gravity, our muscles would have less work to do, leading to a decrease in muscle mass. In space, astronauts can lose up to 20% of their muscle mass in just 5 to 11 days. Imagine then, a lifetime without gravity. Our bones too would be affected. Bone density would decrease due to the lack of stress on the skeletal system. In fact, astronauts experience a bone density loss of 1 to 2% per month in space. Without the constant pull of gravity, our bodies simply don't need to maintain the same bone strength, leading to a condition similar to osteoporosis here on Earth. Now let's talk about circulation. On Earth, our hearts work against gravity to pump blood upward to our brains. In a zero-gravity environment, this challenge disappears, potentially leading to what's known as puffy face syndrome. This is when fluids in the body redistribute evenly, causing a puffy appearance in the face. Speaking of our hearts, they too would change shape. Without gravity, the heart doesn't need to pump as hard, leading it to become more spherical over time. But it's not all doom and gloom. We humans are remarkable adapters. Astronauts, for example, combat muscle and bone loss by exercising for 2 hours each day while in space. They also follow specific diets to maintain their health. In a world without gravity, such measures would become the norm. We'd have to devise new ways to keep our bodies healthy and strong, perhaps through advanced technology or innovative exercise regimes. In short, a zero-gravity world would mean significant changes for the human body. The effects on muscle mass, bone density, and circulation would be profound. But with the right preparation and adaptation methods, we could potentially survive and thrive in such an environment. In a world without gravity, we would need to adapt quickly or perish. It's clear that gravity, the force we take for granted, plays a crucial role in our existence. This unseen hero, always working in the background, is the master sculptor of our world and everything we know. It shapes the mountains, carves the valleys, and even dictates how our bodies function. Think back to the scenarios we've discussed. Without gravity, there would be no up or down, no heavy or light. Everyday actions like pouring a cup of coffee would become a floating chaos of hot liquid and ceramic shards. The immediate effects would be disorienting, to say the least. But the long-term impacts? That's where things get really interesting. Without gravity, our bodies would undergo drastic changes. Our muscles and bones, no longer needing to resist the pull of gravity, would weaken. Our sense of balance, so dependent on gravity, would be thrown into disarray. Even the simple act of walking would become a thing of the past. Yet, life has a knack for adapting, and we've imagined what that might look like. Perhaps we'd evolve to navigate a zero-gravity environment, developing new ways to move and interact. Or maybe we'd invent technologies to create artificial gravity, transforming our homes and cities into spinning habitats. But the reality is, gravity is more than just a force that keeps us grounded. It's a key player in the grand cosmic ballet, ensuring the planets stay in their orbits and the stars keep burning bright. Without gravity, the universe as we know it would simply fall apart. So, let's take a moment to appreciate gravity. This invisible hero doesn't just shape our world. It shapes our lives, our bodies, and indeed our very existence. In the absence of gravity, not only would our world be unrecognizable, but life itself would be in jeopardy. So the next time you jump, remember to thank gravity for bringing you back down.